30 inches in the Live Well, Live Strong quilt, which is behind me over here. And you can see here is the pattern for the Live Well, Live Strong quilt. You can purchase it at Stitches Quilting. It has 26 different unique quilt blocks, and on each one of them we focus on a different aspect of health and wellness. So we are going to build the Strength quilt block. This quilt block really reminds me of kind of like a braided rope of strength, and you can kind of see that braidedness of the different shades and the tones of putting together your quilt block. I've seen so many beautiful Strength quilt blocks out there, you guys. Hi, Amanda from Louisiana. How are you doing? Have things stabilized yet where you're at with getting water and electricity and everything else? I'm so anxious to hear, Amanda. So what we want to do is we want to build strength in our lives, and we want to build resilience. So that is what we are working on this week. We are not only making this size, the 30 by 30 inch strength block, but we are also making the strength block right inside of the 20 by 20 inch complete quilt. Hi, Dolores. How are you? It's so good to see you. Hi, Liz. So the 20 by 20 inch strength quilt block, when you make this one, it is about 10 inches square right here. So this is a 10-inch version. This is the 30-inch version. This one we'll be doing with paper piecing a little bit later this week. So, but I do want to show you, there are really just 3 elements in the strength quilt block of repeating blocks. So I want to show you how to get those and how to construct them, because it does get tricky. The Live Well, Live Strong quilt is a skill building quilt of different sampler blocks. And as you make these sampler blocks, you're going to build additional skills. So one of the tricky things that is kind of, I found that the strength quilt block can be really a pain point for people when they are constructing it. So I want to go over some different tips and tricks. It's also unusual to learn how to cut a like a parallelogram right here. So you can see this shape right here, and you're using the angles on your ruler. So with each one of these quilt blocks, I hope you've learned something. Oh, Dolores, I'm so sorry about your shoulder pain. And Amanda, I'm glad that things are getting back to normal and that you are getting ready to start the cleanup in the backyard. It is hard, you guys, to keep up with everything. So, but sometimes it can be a pain point for people to cut this shape right here. So I'm going to review that right here. And I also want to give you just a heads up. You could construct this. This is the way that you want to construct it. But even I have been tempted to construct it wrong. Can you see the difference in these 2 layouts? This one I'm having it go tall. And this one over here, it's going wide. So you really want to make sure that when you, so this is wrong, because these are to end up being, each of the units are to be the exact same size in the square. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to come back to this. We're going to come back to this and how you get this accurately. So what I am going to start with you first is teaching you how to go ahead and cut out so I'm going to set aside the 30-inch block, but I'm going to show you how to cut this shape right here. I have it with cutting instructions where you use the angles on your ruler, or I have it where you use a paper template. So you've got both of those options there. If you're still finding the quilt block is still tricky for you, I have also, if it's still a pain point for you, I have it designed in the traditional fashion where we're using this shape right here. You guys, oh, hi, Linda, it's good to see you. So it's cold today. Oh, yuck, in Canada. Oh, my goodness. I'm glad to see you here, and I'm so glad that you've joined us. So we're going to go over this shape right here. I call this a parallelogram. Is there a better word for what shape is for this? So please let me know that. But if you still are having a hard time with this right here, I have also have another set of instructions in the pattern to stitch it with just all half square triangles. So this pattern right here has the instructions on how to sew it together with just all half square triangles. So I've tried to remove every pain point for you, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to flip the camera around. I'm going to show you some of the pieces I have here, but what we're going to work on is how to cut this and how to use those angles that are always here that sometimes you don't even see these lines anymore on your ruler. So, but we're going to go ahead and go over that. All right, let me flip my camera around and let's go here. So Amanda says that she's having a small reaction to her second COVID shot. Guess what, you guys? In Utah, they just opened it up for ages 50 and younger, or ages 50 and older, I guess we should say, but 50 years young and older, right? So Corey and I, we just signed up for our COVID vaccine for tomorrow. So I'm really, really happy about that. Okay, so, no, not for tomorrow, for next Friday. So next Friday Corey and I are going to go get our vaccination. So I'll be anxious to see. Now, this is the sheet of paper that you have in the back of the pattern. And you can use your paper scissors to just go ahead and cut this out along the shape. And you can use this, copy it. It might be double-sided in your pattern, but you might want to copy it onto another sheet of paper and just go ahead and get this shape out. I have on the pattern, on the template, put here where you have your dog ears trimmed off of this parallelogram. But this is the size, so you can, if you don't have confidence in your strength template, the size that you're doing right here, when you cut it out, you can use the template itself to just kind of lay alongside it and see if you've got this matched up. So I would say that that's a really good match. So you can see that right there. Okay, now, so what I'm going to do is I am going to take this 4.5-inch strip of these aqua teal fabric. Hi, Jane. It's so good to see you. How are you doing? I just love seeing all of you guys. So we are going over the strength quilt block, and I'm trying to solve all the pain points with the strength quilt block for you. So here I have gone ahead and I've cut myself. You're going to want 2 strips that are 4.5 inches in length. So I am going to obviously trim off my selvage end over here where it's got the holes in it. Now I am using solid fabrics here. When I'm using solid fabrics, I don't have to worry about which way my actual parallelogram is going. But when you've got printed fabric, you're going to want to make sure that you've got them going each a different direction. Okay, so we'll go over that too. So let's go ahead. I'm going to lay this on here. But let me tell you, this isn't that difficult, and you have the strength to do it. Hopefully, I've helped you build the skills and to have the confidence to go ahead and do this. Now, I have gone ahead and I've cleaned off this edge right here, and we are going to cut our 45-degree angle. So I can look, and maybe I should have cut this a different color, but you can see right here, I'm going to go ahead and trim a 45-degree angle. Okay, let me bring this down like 1 inch. So there we go. Now, what I am going to do is I'm going to find the 45-degree angle on my ruler. You can see you usually have a 30-degree, 60-degree, and that's a 30-degree there too. So I'm going to use this 45-degree angle right here, and I am going to lay this right here, and I am going to lay this right like that. And if I want to, I could actually flip this over the other side so you guys can see this is a better example. I am going to shift this over because that's my 45-degree mark right here. And maybe if I had some painter's tape or some washi tape, sometimes it's good to put a piece of washi tape right on that angle that you're wanting to get. So 45-degree angles right there. And I'm going to line this up with the top of my strip of fabric. I'm going to bring it over here to the point, and I'm going to trim that off. Okay, so I have this angle right here. Now it says on the pattern to measure from this point over 7 3/4 of an inch. So let's go ahead. Yes, yeah, Jane, good recommendation to Amanda that she just take it easy after maybe having a little bit of a reaction to that second vaccine. So I'm going to count over 7. I'm actually going to count over 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I'm going to go over here to my 3/4 inch mark. So I am wanting to go ahead and trim right where those scissors are at 7 3/4. So once again, here's my 45-degree angle. And I'm going to lay that up at the top of my fabric, and I'm going to move this over to the point, and I'm going to make sure I've got this measurement accurate. I'm going 7 3/4 of an inch over from this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 3/4. I'm going to just, before I cut, I'm going to count one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 3/4. So I have got my ruler hitting right at that 7 3/4 mark, and I've made sure, let's make sure that my angle is right where I want it to be on the top of that fabric. So I'm gonna count one more time, and I've actually kind of funked this up a little bit. Hold on, I've got my computer keyboard over here, just slightly, that I use to, let's go ahead and bring this over 1 more inch. Let's bring it over 1 more inch, and I'll have more room over here. I can lay this flat. Okay, so let's make sure our fabric is lining up straight according to our cutting mat, okay? So you do want to make sure that. Now I'm going to bring this over. I've got my 45-degree angle. I'm going to count from this point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 3/4. So I'm right there. I'm going to count one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 3/4. I'm now going to take my blade. I've got this on the 45-degree angle. I've measured how far over I need to be, and I'm going to just trim that. So that's how you get this shape. If you don't want to do that, you can go ahead and open up your 4.5 inch strip, and we can press off that little bit right here. Let's go ahead and press our 45-degree angle. I shouldn't do that quite all the way. And you could just lay this down, your strip of fabric. Let's go ahead and imagine that this is a straight edge over here. And we're going to go ahead and take this. So to give you more confidence, you can lay this down and just lay that on top. Match your corners where you're at. And then let's go ahead and bring your ruler over here and then just trim that off. Okay, so same thing. Let's do it all the way over here on this side. I've got my ruler just right where I want it. I'm going to pull this to the side and bring that across. So you can see I've used the template to help me cut, or I've used my ruler with a degree angle and the amount of space I need to be. But you can see all of those come out the same. So what's fun about the Live Well, Live Strong quilt pattern, where did I set that, is it really is a skill building pattern to teach you how to cut and do things that you would maybe do on another quilt that has more skill required. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to our next little spot. So I want to show you right here for the unit. So on the pattern, the units are, let me show you, I think I could do this here. The unique units you have are, you have 4 of this unit right here. I just don't want there to be a glare with the lights, the camera lights. So you've got 4 of these units, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you make 4 of those, which I showed you my design board there. You have 4 units right over here. These just involve half square triangles. And you can see we put together 2 half square triangles opposite each other with 2 solid triangles. And then you have your center unit. So there's 9 units in this strength quilt block. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 4 of them are with the parallelogram, and 4 of them are this corner piece right here with the half square triangles and the squares. The center unit is completely unique. So let's just go over a couple tips right there. And I hope that this helps you understand how to cut fabric at an angle. I hope that I've given you lots of tips in there that you can use. But let's go back to the construction of this. So what I'm going to do, and then on Wednesday, next week on Monday, we're going to sew all of these together so everything matches. So right here, I have everything laid out for my strength quilt block. So just remember, you want these to go wide. So you want them to go wide. You don't want them to be skinny. You are building yourself a square here, and then when it's all built, you want to make sure you square up your square. Okay? So here I would put right sides together and stitch along this edge and open that up and press it out. Once again, right sides together and stitch along this edge. So that is how you construct this section with the parallelogram. You will make 4 of these. Let's go ahead and let me switch out my squares right here. I've got my pressing board. I'm going to go ahead and review this. This is really a simple unit, so don't just break this down into pieces. And that's part of life, is the more that we break it down into pieces and steps, we can feel more capable of doing things. And sometimes it just takes 20 seconds of courage to get started and then push through the uncomfortable little spaces that we can successfully get through it. Okay, here you've got pretty much a 4 patch, but you have 2 half square triangles combined with 2 squares. So once again, you make 4 units of this section, and you make 4 units of this section. The center section, because that gives you 8 units. The center section is really building a square within a square. So I've already pre-sewn these for you. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a feel for how to do this. But I do want to, this might be one of the easier sections. I mean, they're all pretty easy. But there is a pain point here, is you really want to make sure that when you're sewing this, that you're squaring this up and everything is equal. So what we always want to do is we start with our small red square. We build out these denim square, half square triangles on the sides, the blueberry, and now the aqua. So whenever you come to this point, I want you to make sure that you're finger pressing from side to side. So let me go ahead and just move these over to the side, and I'm going to show you what I mean by the finger pressing. So you can finger press or hot press, and I'm going to hot press so you can see it on the camera. So I am going to fold this over, because you really want to make sure that when you're folding this over from seam to seam, so I've got my center point to my center point, is you don't want this, you want to sew this accurately so it doesn't kind of have a concave ness to it. You want it to be a true square, because you need everything to square up to actually get a 30-inch block. So right here, we're going to square from this intersection of stitching lines to this intersection of stitching lines. I am going to fold these from intersection to intersection, and I'm going to just bring this over with my sewing, with my iron, and just kind of give that a good press. So each time you layer this on as you go from square to square, and I'm going to do the same thing over here, even though I already have sewn these on, but I'm going from intersection to intersection, and I'm giving it a press, just so that you can kind of see what I've been doing as I've built this one out. So can you see the shadowing of the lines there? You can do this as a finger pressing. If you finger press it right when you have pressed your block, as you're building them out, your finger pressing can really show up too. Okay, so let's go ahead. When we sew this on, you're going to want to match your triangle to these center lines. So I'm going to want to make sure, even if my triangle's a little wonky, the most important priority is to match this point with the center of this right here. And when you do these kinds of things, you will have a really squared up, beautiful block. So even if this didn't look perfectly centered, if my triangle was cut slightly off, I would still want to have this put on here. So I'm going to pin this on this side, but I'm going to flip it over, and it might not feel natural, but I'm going to stitch on this side. So let's go ahead and line these up so they're lined up. So I'm going to stitch from kind of what would be considered the back, but what's critically important to me is I want to match my seams, and I want to go straight through this seam allowance here of this intersecting stitching lines. And sometimes I just stitch just slightly to the far right of it. And just give myself a little stitching line, if not through exactly through the center. I prefer to go just slightly a hair to the outside, a hair to the right in this case. So you can see my triangle sitting there. I've pinned it on the front on this side, on the back on this side, and I'm going to go do my consistent 1/4 inch seam. Okay, so that is so standard in quilting as we piece things together. Now, that's the thing about life, is we want to be consistent. Consistency brings strength, and consistency brings, and we've got a pattern and a rhythm here. So by keeping our patterns going and by having the courage to do things, for even if it's just for 20 seconds, we start something off for 20 seconds and tell ourselves we will do that, we will try it, and then we will push through the pain points. So I see I took out my pins. You can see on this side, I went ahead and I stitched through the intersection of that, and I stitched it just to the far right of that intersection. I do want to have my consistent 1/4 inch seam, but then you can see that all of these seams are matching up, which is what you want as you're quilting. You want your points to match up, and I followed that same pattern throughout the whole thing. The other thing that's critically important here is you want to square everything up. So this and every other single unit in this quilt block needs to be 10.5 inches square. Okay, so it's really, really important that you square everything up. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to take the time to completely piece this. I hate doing such long videos, but I'm going to make sure that this is squared up. And this is what I am actually going to do with all of my other block units that are constructed. Okay, we're going to make sure everything is consistent. I am going to come back on Monday, and we are going to just sew these together in the 9 patch. I will show you what rhythm I have as I do that, and what I do to make sure that my points are matching as we sew them together. So you guys, I really am so excited for you guys. The Strength Quilt Block, I think, is one of the most beautiful things about this quilt block. I'm going to go ahead and grab this right here. If you look down at the Strength Quilt Block, so the Strength Quilt Block, this is the foundation paper piecing version, but you can see it just right here, and it really looks like a braiding of strength. So as we intertwine cords in our lives and have different sources of strength, we are able to draw from that strength to be able to accomplish what we want to accomplish in life, and to be able to handle and to be able to be resilient during the difficult times that we encounter, because difficult times do come. I have some worksheets for you guys that are available for download. I have some items on here that are different sources of power or strength in your life that you can go through this list and go ahead and circle, like for example exercise or movement or planning or being proactive or cleanliness. You can circle the things that give you strength in your life, and then when you're feeling a little challenged, you can go back and use these as resources to tap in and to make sure that you have into your routine. So I've got some great worksheets for you guys if you would like to go download those on the Live Well or on the Stitches Quilting website. All of this is with the Stitches Quilting Live Well, Live Strong quilt pattern. You guys, it is so great to see you on a Friday. I'm excited that we get to end our week working on strength and building resilience in our lives. And I can't wait to be back with you on Monday. We will finish constructing and putting together our units for the Strength Quilt Block. And then I will take you through the process of how to go ahead and build the Strength Quilt Block with the foundation paper piecing. So you guys, I love you so much. Look forward to a great weekend. And remember, you have within you the strength to do what you need to do. Just tap into it. And then there is grace that will come that will meet you with the strength that you have. And you'll be able to get through it. I love you guys so much. And I'll see you on Monday at noon. And we're going to enjoy some quilting all next week too. Thanks. We'll see you guys a little bit later.